The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the speakers and not of DoD or any of its components.
Take me to the countryside. Gotta get out of these city lights. Drinking my cup, got me feeling right. Gotta get out of these city lights.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Rising Sun Podcast. I'm Dean Howell. So, if you're not familiar with the podcast, there's 3 versions. Used to be only 2, but I've recently added a 3rd version of the podcast. The first version is the one that most everybody's familiar with, and that's the numbered episodes. And those are episodes where I'll have a guest come on, and we'll just talk about their background, where they're from, what they did, where they're at now in their life, and where they're headed. Talk about their success stories, about their failures, really generally anything that comes up, but we like to keep the podcast about winning, about moving forward, about rising, right? Because it is the Rising Sun Podcast. And then we have what's called the R-Check. And the R-Check is a reference to the Navy, where we do preventive maintenance on our gear and our equipment. And one of those checks is an R-Check. And an R-Check is as required. And so I'll do an R-Check just when something is on my heart, or when I feel like I need to talk about something, or something occurred, a great story, something that I want to tell you guys about. That's when I'll do an R-Check. And I'll get into kind of like the future of the podcast toward the end of the podcast today. But then the 3rd version, which I recently added, and this will be episode 2, is Sea Stories. Listen, man, I've done some wild shit over these last almost 23 years in the Navy. And I kind of want to share those stories with you because a lot of them are funny, some of them not so funny. It's a little cathartic for me to tell those stories. Helps me to remember it. Also makes a record of these things for my kids someday, or maybe for somebody that's thinking about joining the Navy or serving their country. So anyway, so the 3rd one is Sea Stories. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do Sea Stories. So before I jump into it, I'm going to do a few ad reads, a few thank yous to folks that help out the podcast. The first 2, I am affiliate with these clothing brands. And then the last one, they just did a rebranding. So before it was Prize Crew Coffee. You may have heard me talk about Prize Crew on here before, but now it's Compass True Limited. But let me get into it. So the first one is Not Dead Yet. Not Dead Yet apparel. Not Dead Yet is a lifestyle, and our clothing acts as a memento. We are free to try anything and break free of limitations. Whatever it is you want, now's the time to get it. You're not dead yet. So Matt Vincent is the CEO of, and what he would say, head lunatic of Not Dead Yet Apparel. And I've had him on the podcast, and he's remained a friend of mine over the basically all of 2023, friend and mentor. And I'm happy to have Not Dead Yet as a partner with the Rising Sun Podcast. If you do go to Not Dead Yet, it's notdeadyet.com. And if you look at their apparel, they have some sweet t-shirts, hoodies. They've got the goat pants, the goat shorts. If you're familiar with Hate Brand apparel, it's been rebranded as Not Dead Yet. In any case, some sweet stuff on there. I wear a lot of their stuff. And if you do get something, you'll get 10% off if you use the code NDYDEAN. That's NDYDEAN. Get 10% off at notdeadyet.com. Second partner of the podcast, you are familiar with this one. It's Lions Not Sheep. And, I've been an ambassador for them for a long time. Had Sean Whalen on the podcast. He's the CEO of Lions Not Sheep. And, for Lions Not Sheep, you have 2 choices, to lead or to be led. We are a generation of leaders. We are a generation of lions. Again, I wear a lot of their stuff. Amazing t-shirts, hats, hoodies, socks. I've got Lions Not Sheep ornaments on my tree and stickers everywhere, including on my Nalgene. So, yeah, man, head over to lionsnotsheep.com, lionsnotsheep.com. And again, if you buy any of their stuff, use code LNS. That's LNS Dean. LNS Dean. Get 10% off. And then finally, Compass True Limited. Pacific Northwest Business, who specializes in delicious small batch coffee, challenge coins, and personalized swag, curated and shipped quickly, and it is Navy Chief owned. This is my friend Chris McGrew, Senior Chief up there in Pac Northwest, Quartermaster, met him on McCampbell. So if you want to support your veterans, you want to support small business, you can check them out on Instagram. That's Compass True Ltd, all one word. That's on Instagram. And then their website is CompassTrueLtd, all one word.com. Go check them out. I do have a promo code for them too, but I can't remember what it is, so I have to ask Chris. All right, guys, thanks for bearing with that. Those are some of our partners of the podcast. Super happy to have them on board. Looking forward to having a couple more coming up pretty soon. And just appreciate you bearing with that. But please go check them out. That's Not Dead Yet. That's Lions Not Sheep and Compass True Ltd. 3 partners of the Rising Sun podcast. And quite frankly, 3 pretty amazing small businesses. So support small business. All right. So as promised, today is Sea Stories with Dean Howell. And as you read in the title, the Senior Chief and Dr. Jill, it's a pretty interesting one. So I'll just hop to it. I've told this story to a handful of people, and I think you'll get a kick out of it. So we'll go back to, it must have been about 2012 or so, and I was a Senior Chief. So I'm the Senior Chief in this story. I was a Senior Chief on USS Fitzgerald. That's DDG 62. And Fitzgerald was the pride of Yokosuka back then. This was well before her collision. Some people used to call us like a shiny penny. But we were a great ship. Great crew, great ship. And we did get put on parade a lot. So in the military, I know for sure in the Navy, I think that in the other branches too, when we're going to have like a dignitary visit the ship, we call it a dog and pony show. And so we were in Singapore, moored at Changi Pier. So if you've ever been to Singapore, you got Changi Airport. Well, Changi Pier Changi Naval Base, I should say, is a pretty recently constructed, I say in the last 2 decades, recently constructed Singapore Navy base. And they have a lot of pier space. So like when the carrier goes in, or like a big deck amphib, like they can actually go pier side there instead of anchoring out, right? So anyways, so we were pier side at Changi Naval Base, and we got word that Vice President Biden at the time was in Singapore. This was the first time that we had deployed LCS to Singapore, and so it was kind of a big deal. And so the vice president was in Singapore and wanted to visit sailors on board the LCS ship that was there, which I believe was USS Independence, because I think it was first of its class that was there. I can talk more about that. We were supposed to do a carrot, which is like exercise with LCS and with Fitz and then with the Singaporeans. But if you know anything about LCS, guess what? It was broke down on the fucking pier. And so it didn't get to participate in the exercise. So in any case, we got word that Vice President Biden wanted to visit sailors from the LCS and from Fitz. Also, it's worth mentioning that our CO at the time, Commander Schmitz, was the military liaison for both Vice Presidents Dick Cheney and then later for Vice President Biden. So he knew them, like, personally. He was on their staffs before he had come back to sea. And so, we got word that the vice president wanted to visit, and, some sailors were selected, and we looked for people from Delaware, and I don't think we had anybody from Delaware, because typically these politicians will want to, they'll want to get a photo op with somebody from their state. Like Hillary Clinton wanted to do the same thing when she visited the ship in Manila. I can talk about that too. Actually, I will talk about that in another sea story. But they want to get like this photo op with somebody from their state, like shaking hands with them. So you try to find people from wherever they're from. We didn't have anybody from Delaware, put it that way. So the other part of it is, though, that Dr. Jill Biden was going to talk to a group of sailors and also any family members that were available out at Sembawang. So Sembawang is a joint use, like bilateral, trilateral base. So the Brits kind of typically own it. Not typically, they own it for all intents and purposes. But the Brits are there, the Aussies are there, we're there, New Zealand is there. And it's an old base, right? And I mean, we're talking pre-World War II and back to when like Singapore and that part of the peninsula down by Malaysia was owned by the Brits as a colony. In any case, so Sembawang is where like the Navy is basically. And so there's a club out there, there's a pool, there's MWR, they've got a football field, they've got a gym, like all the things that you would expect to find on a Navy base. So Dr. Jill wanted to talk to sailors and some families out at what's called the Terror Club, which is a reference to the HMS Her Majesty's ship Terror, which used to be stationed at that base at Sembawang. And so it was hot as hell. It's Singapore. I wanted to get off the ship. I was a senior chief, so I said, you know what? I will go sit and listen to the first lady, or the second lady, I should say. I'll go listen to the second lady talk to the families. I'm happy to do it. I'll get to go over to the base. I can go to the exchange, grab a few things, grab a bite to eat. I was like, I got it. I'll bring these sailors with me. And so, you know, it was an opportunity to take the bus out to Sembawang and like get away from the ship. Also, I didn't want to stand on that hot ass pier. It's just concrete, you know, 90-something% humidity in Singapore all the damn time. And so I was like, send me over to Sembawang. I'm happy to do it. And so I did and went over there, and it was as you would expect, you know, thank you for your service. I think it might have been around Thanksgiving or something like that. What's up, guys? Trying a new setup. So, yeah, working out the kinks right now. But like I was saying, Dr. Jill Biden was fantastic. She was very engaging, very warm, and really well-spoken. I mean, so I enjoyed being there. And when we were done, and here it comes, you know, we were going through, like, the line to shake her hand. And so it's my turn to shake her hand, and you know, I'm shaking Dr. Biden's hand, the second lady of the United States. That's pretty cool, man, right? I'm like, thank you very much, man, for, you know, coming out. And as I'm shaking her hand, I look down, and she had some of the best kept feet I've ever seen. I mean, they were immaculate. Just moisturized, not like veiny, hot pink toenails that were perfectly pedicured, I guess is the word. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, man, this is a classy lady. Like, look at her toes, man. They look so nice. They match her dress perfectly. It's the exact same color. All this is flowing through my head. And so I'd probably stared a little too long, because when I looked back up, she had a little bit of a puzzled look on her face. But I was in the moment, and I said, ma'am, your feet look absolutely fantastic. And she kind of looked at me, and she said, well, thank you, Senior Chief. I appreciate that. And it was in that moment that it occurred to me, you just hit on the second lady of the United States. Totally inadvertently, man. I mean, I was a little less likely to control my inside voice back then, if you can imagine. And but even for me, I was like, oh my God, dude, what have you done? And I'm still shaking her hand. Thank you. Well, thank you, Senior Chief. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for coming out to visit us. And but then it's occurring to me, like, okay, dude, like, you have been shaking her hand like an awkwardly long time now. So finally I let go, and she kind of like watched me walk away. And I thought to myself as I'm walking away, What have you done, bro? Anyways, nothing ever came of it. So I know what you're thinking. I don't have a foot fetish, I don't think. I can appreciate someone that takes good care of their feet, though, because if a woman takes good care of their feet, you know, it tells you a little something about them. Like they might be taking care of everything else. Just saying. So that's the story of the senior chief and Dr. Jill. It was a real thing, man. And only one other older lady that had really great feet would be worth mentioning. She was a constitutional law professor that I had in political science when I was in college. And yeah, she had great fucking feet. So, but other than those two, man, I'm totally not a foot guy. There's this other set of feet, but anyways, like I said, not a foot guy. Don't have a fetish. It's all good. That's the story of me hitting on our current first lady when she was much younger. Okay. All right, guys, just a quick podcast update, and we'll call it a wrap. So going forward, 3 versions of the podcast. So first Wednesday of each month, I'll record a C Stories. Second Wednesday of each month, I'll record an R Check. And then either the third or fourth Wednesday, I'll give myself a 2-week window each month to record a guest episode. It was just getting too much to have a guest every week. I just couldn't keep up with the schedule, having a full-time job. And so expect an episode with a guest about once a month. But I've got some good requests in, man. We'll see if they pan out. And I'll bring back one of my very first guests toward the end of this month to kick off 2024. And I know you guys are going to love that episode. It'll be good to catch up with my boy Frank Rice Jr. So looking forward to that. Okay, guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed C Stories with Dean Howell. And hold fast and keep rising.
Take me to the countryside.